Good morning. This is Elise, and what a great morning it is. What do I have on my neck? My life pillow, my life vest, what it is that helps me to just feel more comfortable and helps me to just be able to manage what's going on in my body. And sometimes I have some things going on in my neck. And if I'm able to just prop back on this, or I'm able to lean, I just feel so much better. Wow, the color keeps going in and out, but that's okay. We're not even worried about that. Hopefully, you will be able to hear and get something. You're listening, but to hear and get something out of what's said, that's like the most important. So today, we're speaking about the psychology behind isolation. So, what is isolation? What is it? Isolation is when, you know, let's say you have two people in a room, and one person is in the left corner and one person is in the right corner. Is that fair to say that there is isolation? Yeah. You know why? Even though they're in the same room, they're in two different parts of the room. So it could almost be looked at as though they are by themselves. There's no communication. So now, what if there was a partition? A partition put between the two of them. Now, I said one in the left corner and one in the right corner. Without a partition, they probably both would know that they're there, but there's still isolation because there's no communication. There's just no talk, no touch, no eye contact, isolation. And if there was an additional, a partition put between the two where they could not see each other. Now, we just said no eye contact. If there was a partition and they both were to turn in towards each other, looking at the partition, they still would not be able to see each other. So it would still be a mode of isolation, correct? Now, let me go back for a moment. Suppose the partition wasn't there and they did turn in and see each other just by sight or by view, by eyes. Would we call that an isolation? Could we call that? No communication, no talking, but they saw each other. Would they feel like they were alone or would they feel like they were in the room together? Could it be a dual thing going on? So, with eye contact, we're in the room together. I'm not by myself, but yet and still, I am isolated to the point where there's no verbal talk between the two. But if I open my eyes like that, will he or she open their eyes the same way? Can we read each other? Can we read each other's body language? Perhaps. But for some, it still could mean isolation to a degree. So, what happens when a child is in a home with their parent or parents and siblings, and a child has no true communication to the point where it's stimulating, it's uplifting, it's just joyous, it's interesting? Well, what about this? Just seemingly overflowing with care and concern. What if they didn't have that? But the things that were of concern is that the child sleeps, the child eats, the child gets up in the morning to go to school, comes back, and whatever happens in the rest of the day is just whatever. Maybe you get a phone call in the home from mom or dad for a minute, but most of the time, the child is by his or herself. Could that be looked at as an isolation? Some parents, for whatever the reasons may be, believe that just the bare minimum is enough. And then, you know, going deeper, some parents have experienced for themselves isolation, or some situations came about in their lives where it was traumatic. It could have been abuse, it could have been misuse, it could have been just nobody seemingly there, even in a house full of people. But nobody really seemed to care. And what happens is that that same kind of feeling can be transported into that person's life as an adult, and how they deal with their child or their children could be the same way. It could have even been because of relational issues between men and women. Maybe there was a sexual relationship. Maybe there was a friendship gone awry. Maybe there was, you know, a relationship that started out very, very young and continued on to some degree, and there was a child that came out of it. And because there were some things that were unresolved, one or more of the parents never got over it and just pours out what they are feeling and their animosity and maybe their hate and their anger and maybe their own isolation issues, stemming from earlier childhood stuff that they went through into the home that they now have. And it is reflective in their own connection with their children. So when you think about that, it's terrible. It is disgusting because everybody needs to be able to communicate in some way. And people who have unresolved issues, like the issue of isolation, or the issue, out of isolation, which could be hate or bitterness or malice or envy, whatever it is, spewing over into their personal lives with their children now, that are a result from a relationship, or either maybe not even from the relationship, but maybe from another situation, spewing over. But then what you would see is that there would be a difference in treatment from the older to the youngest. And what parents sometimes do, what they sometimes will do, is just provide the bare minimum. And in their sight, it looks like that's enough. Bare minimum. Oh, give him some food. Make sure he got some clothes and a roof. But the rest we just can't do. So, let me try to fix this. Is it shades of what they've gone through? Being seen or reflected in the life that they now have with their children that may have been the result? And maybe there's another child who's older and that child didn't experience it at all. Maybe there's a difference in parenting, different dad, different mom. And people don't realize the effects, the affects and effects that there are and can be, on the lives of their children based on what they have experienced in their earlier years. And not only that, based on how they dealt with the takeaway, unresolved issues. If there are unresolved issues that were the takeaway, they will just continue blaming the child. Blaming the child. And now, how does the blame come into play? It may not even be, I blame you for this and it's your fault, blah, blah. Some parents do that. Some people just blatantly come out and do it. And the child is like, what are you talking about? I don't I don't know what you mean. And then they're trying so hard, to love and to make up and to be accepted because they've been kicked aside and pushed aside like they are nothing, and maybe pushed aside without communication. What do I mean? Okay, so they may not come out and go, you did this or you did that, but they're blatantly ignored, except for the very basic things like food, clothing, and shelter. But then let's look at the food issue. What if there's no cooking going on? And what if there's just the bare minimum things like oodles of noodles, snickerdoodles, and soda? Well, as long as they eat something, that's all that matters. Because maybe the parent feels like, why should I? So is it that the parent could be blaming the mom or the dad for all of what has happened? Well, this is the result. The end result is the child. So you can hold it against the child because of what you went through with the mom or the dad. But then to the outside world, because the child is dressed a certain way and groomed, it looks like nothing is going on. Nothing bad going on. Nothing at all. Nothing psychological going on. Nothing, causing there to be mental instability. Oh, it doesn't look like there's any isolation. But in truth, it's very present. Now think about this. The only ones that may come around are family members, other family members. Maybe they have kids too. So that child or children in that home that might be experiencing isolation, they're acclimated to their family members. But when the family members are gone, are there other children in the lives of these children or these kids? Maybe far and few in between. Are they allowed to go out to other people's homes and visit with other children in the neighborhood? Maybe yes and maybe no. So what's going on? So let's take it to school. How would their behavior be in school? It might be some issues. You know why? Because when a child is isolated or made to feel like they're not worthy, and the only things that are important are the material things, they tend to grow up or can grow up with social issues, socialization. And I'm telling you, it's not something to just overlook. If there's a socialization issue, it means that becoming acclimated to other people or allowing other people in might be very difficult. Or they can do the opposite. Just be gullible and allow everybody in. Because they got a time and a place and a space where they can talk and they can just be. But then boundaries. Sometimes there are no boundaries. And they have hearts of gold. And they just, sometimes. So it could be either or, right? Either or. And then when they go back home, they're in their quiet little cave again. And maybe they spend lots of time on the computer. Or maybe they spend time watching TV. Maybe they have an older brother or sister that doesn't even talk to them. And they just want a little bit of communication. So they'll try. Well, you didn't ask me. Well, I would help you. I'll do it. And they're just completely ignored. Because the older doesn't feel like they're worth talking to. They're not at my level. But it's your brother or your sister. And if a mom or a dad fosters that kind of behavior and doesn't think that it's an issue because she or he has their own stuff that was going on and believes that, well, as long as he eats, as long as he's bathed and he looks good and got a roof, then that's all that matters. And that is not all that matters, because it really can be a setup for destruction. Isolation is nothing to play with at all. I talk about it because I've been in a situation in my life where it was just me and mom. And I was the result, the business of relationships that were very, very, very abusive in the womb and out. But you see, as a young child, you see, this happens as well. Parents who've gone through abuse and been through certain things in their lives, sometimes they don't feel worthy of the children that they have. They love them, but it's kind of like a love-hate. And it's not that they hate them so much, but they hate what the child reminds them of. And they also could hate themselves because of the abuse that they sustained that was innocently afflicted or afflicting on the child that they carried. And maybe it is that they lost children and they were told not to have, or you're not able to have and hold another baby, and then one comes. And what do? They're happy, so excited, going through trauma, stress, and strain again with joy in a sense because the child is alive. But then again, there's a dual thing going on. Well, the baby is in an incubator. And I don't know whether the baby is going to survive. And then when the baby comes, I mean, to the point where he's able or she's able to come home, is what do I do? I lost two. And then her dad or his dad, and it's a lot going on. And then there could be other family drama at the same time. So maybe in the younger years, early years, the relationship is different, where the child might not be able to speak as much or verbalize, and a parent can deal with that and will do some beautiful things with the child in terms of rearing. But as the child gets older, old enough to speak and verbalize and rationale and say things and ask questions. And do you know some parents who've been in abusive situations and even isolations themselves will shut the child down? Shut up. Will you just leave me alone? I don't want to get away from me. So immediately it starts there. Get away from me. So the child ends up going into a room, going into a den, or going into the refrigerator and find no food except oodles and noodles in the cabinet that they can just boil some water or put it in the microwave or just put some water on it and eat that, and won't even say sometimes, like, could you cook something for me? Because they don't know how the parent is going to be feeling at that time. So it's like walking on eggshells. It's like walking on eggshells. And the child thinking sometimes that they are the blame for everything, that it's because of them, but never really having any true understanding as to why. Like, what did I do? What did I do? And trying to find ways. That's some kids. And then other kids are just shut off. They don't say anything. And then if they do have a conversation with somebody, it's easy to pick up. Hey, how you doing? Fine. Well, what's going on? Nothing. Well, did you have a good time in school? Yeah. What is that? What is that? It could be two ways or maybe three ways taken because of isolation. Very short answers. Answers that require no more than what I can dish out because I don't know how mom or dad is going to feel with my speaking anything into or anything more in terms of answering the questions. Because she doesn't talk to me or he doesn't really talk to me. So I believe that this is the way that it's supposed to be done. Mom calls me on the phone for a minute and a half. Dad calls me for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. But we don't really say a whole lot. They don't say too much. But I don't see them. I'm in a room all the way on the other side, and they're over there. And in hours, hours and hours and hours, we don't see each other at all. But if my cousins come over, we have fun together. But then they go home, and the isolation starts all over again. Even though I'm in the house with mom, dad, older brother, older sister. Amazing, right? Amazing. So what happens? In those times of isolation, you know that children, depending upon the age, they develop sometimes imaginary friends. And it is a mechanism, it is a way for them to hold on to sanity, whatever little bit that they may have or what they have. And they don't understand it as sanity, but it is a communication that they develop, and then parents can look at like, well, she's talking to imaginary people and this and that, but they're not looking at the fact that they are not playing a role in their communication development. They're not playing an active role, in stimulating conversation so that the child may become inquisitive. And I've seen it where parents are upset because their children ask so many questions. And truly, they should be grateful that a child is bubbling and full of questions. Well, why is it this, mommy? And why is it that? Well, how come? Could you tell me why? And you know what some parents will do? Will you just shut up and leave me alone? I'm tired. And here's the thing. Sometimes the shutdown could be warranted if you are that type of parent that pretty much will answer to the best of your ability, or either say, you know what, I really don't know, but we're going to look into that. The child has something to hope for because they got an answer. But if none of the questions were ever answered at any time, it's blatant. A blatant, I really don't care. And my headache is more important. What I'm feeling right now is more important than what you have to say. So how often is a parent with a migraine that they can't communicate with their children? How often is a parent in a funk themselves because of maybe some stuff that they went through? But will they seek help? What will they do? And then here's the other flip side of it. There's so much more I could say, but here's the flip side of it. Someone sees what's going on, or maybe someone just wants to develop a relationship, and they would start to speak to the child. Good communication, fun things, school things, leisure things like music and art and all these different kinds of things. So, what will a parent do? A parent can either take to it wholeheartedly, innocently, or they can take to it with reservation and, you know, make a scenario where it's not healthy for their child to continue in a relationship because they'll create something. So let me break it down. If the person is coming at the child or speaking to the child about things that are educational that will build them up and things that will help them to be developed, more, in their craft, in their basketball skills, in their school skills, music skills, or introducing them to things that are cultural, and good for children to learn, making suggestions and the whole nine, to a parent that's also been subject to isolation or some real dysfunctional family stuff, they can easily become jealous or envious of a relationship. And what they'll do is take that good thing and make it as though it was something really disgusting. Like, I'm not going to allow my child to be a part of that because it's all leaning towards promiscuity, it's leaning toward mental illness, it's leaning toward all the things that are the degrading things of life. And people can buy into that just because of what the person says. But the person or the parent knows themselves that that was not it at all. So, what are the choices? Either I'm going to allow the person to continue having great communication, or I'm going to just shut it down and make it look like that same person that was there, they had a presence that was beautiful, is no longer what I want my child to be around, and make it as though that person does not want to communicate with my child. And it's not like that at all. So the person is left in the dark, like, what's really going on? So where does it all stem from? Maybe from the initial relationship that the parent had with the father or the mother, and they just gonna make it difficult. Well, they not getting this, they not getting that, they ain't gonna be no communication. And so the generational, quote unquote, curse continues. But at whose expense? Shutting it down for the child who had great times and now bubbly and loving the fact that somebody's talking to them. Isolation is still in effect. So you are blaming, they are blaming, and they are instituting behavior. Oh my God, not only behavior, but environment that says you always gonna be alone. This is how your mom or your dad did me. Well, you ain't gonna have. And this is how it's gonna be. But you see, to the outside world looking in, the beautiful colonial style, the big home, the this, the that, the beautiful clothes, the haircut. It looks like everything is beautiful. It looks like it's just jiggy, on and popping. But then when you enter in and you stay for a while, you begin to realize that what you see on the inside is completely opposite to what the appearance is on the outside. So what does a child want? What does a child want? They just want a hug. They just want love. And you know what? Food. Even oodles of noodles is good. But sometimes it's better if I can get that meal that mom cooked. Because she cooked it. Yeah. Oodles of noodles is good because I can fix it myself. But I can't eat that 24/7. And snickerdoodles and soda. That's not good for my upbringing. That's not good for my health. That's not good for healthy living. But the child doesn't really know that. So they're given what it is because it suffices in terms of the parents, the parents' connection to the overall development of the child in terms of sustenance. Well, I ain't hear you just make some oodles and noodles, but is this an everyday thing? And then if you are there, how often do you cook? Is the child eating enough? Are you concerned about anything with the food? Think about that for a moment. No home is perfect. No home is perfect. No. But if you've already had in mind, I'm talking about a parent, already has in mind that I'm not going to do but so much. And nobody on the inside, or what, let me stop. People who are on the inside, like family members may know, but they're not going to tell nobody. But other people on the outside won't know. And then maybe you have some family members that do say, well, wait a minute, you, or maybe they're not really seeing it the way that it really is, because there's that communication with the children. It's good like that. And maybe they'll be together because it's just that core family, but nobody else is let in from the outside. It's amazing. It's really something to look at. It really is. And kids want to be involved with other kids. But if you start them out really young in a mode of isolation because of what it is that you've gone through, that maybe is an unresolved or unresolved issues, and you haven't vented out or let it out or addressed it to the point where you can go on and live and it won't affect anybody else or anything else in your life, then it's just a cycle revolving over and over and over and over. And some parents are conscious of it and deliberately do it. And others may not be conscious of it, that they would just see that this is how it is. It takes study. It takes evaluation. Portions could be seen and then portions may not be seen. And what is the parent gaining from all of this? Satisfaction? Because the other parent didn't do this or the other parent didn't do that, or my mom treated me like this, or my dad treated me like this and it was fine for me. So what are they getting out of it? Maybe they just don't know any better. We're looking at it from different angles. Just different angles. Confusion is high in situations like that sometimes. Confusion. Very much. So this is because of, and then the parent will say things right in front of the child that make him feel or her feel like, or then maybe the child is really not listening so much or hearing so much of what's really being said, but they feel the treatment. And then maybe the parent will mull it over. Well, let's go shopping. Or mull it over with, let's go to Dave and Buster's. And it looks real good. We went out to eat. And we got some clothes. And then if another person is there who's been, at least for a portion of time, connected with the child, but the child only knows how to start out with, you know what I want? I want an iPhone 12 and I really need a computer and so what is the focus, or what are the focuses, or can be the focuses of that child? Just the tangible things. So somebody said food is good. It is. It's good. Food tastes good. You feed someone naturally, that's a beautiful thing. You feed someone spiritually with balance, that's even better. So, in other words, food tastes good, but the food of love through communication, through dialogue, and maybe just through a hug, an embrace, or a bump, a child can cherish and savor that moment because they would know that it's more than what it looks like. Amazing. Somebody said when we talk about amazing, is it amazing? Sometimes it's like that, and sometimes it's like amazing what can go on, in the family in terms of the dynamics and dysfunction. Somebody might look at this scenario and call it non dysfunctional. But if you look a little deeper, even though the home is beautiful and the bedroom is colored beautiful and everything is painted and just lovely, you still could see many shades of dysfunction. You could even see some shades of hate. You could even see some shades of, I don't want it, but I can't open my mouth and say I don't. But what I will do, this is the parent, is pretend that those people who really care are the ones that don't want to communicate. And the ones that really want to be there. Yeah, the ones who really want to be there have so many issues themselves, but it's not worth it because I don't want my child around that. But then here's the other side of it. You will put on a rap song or some other kind of music that may be derogatory in nature and get together as a family and dance to the beat. Ooh, and it's okay. But then you want to throw shade at other people and call what they've done that's good and evil. And then that person is not aware, like, why is it that this is going on? But then they begin to realize and see some things, but still they fight on. Let them know that they can call me anytime. Let them know that I said hello, but it never happens because there's an agenda to be filled, an agenda to meet. Everybody is different in the way that they express themselves. Everybody. Some people want to look at what people do and call it, if they're not, expressing things in a way that is acceptable to them, they want to call it dual personality or personality issue or emotional problem or this or that or whatever it is. But thank God that we are all different and we should be able to accept each other for our differences. And no one has to come and express everything to the letter as to why they do what they do. But you see, because people are different in the ways that they do things, and people also have agendas, what a person does that's different, people will take it. Society will take it and flip it, turn it, mold it, sculpt it, not scope it, but then again, scope it too, sculpt it into something that they could use as a support for their reasons why they don't want to have communication or why communications can't go on or continue with their children or with their family members. What can we do about that? Nothing but stand in truth. But stand in truth. So then it becomes, where maybe the fight is over. Because people will get to a place where, like, I can't fight anymore. I've done as much as I could do. And there will be a point in time where if these children or even their parents want to talk or communicate, then they'll come forward. But there'll be no more attempts at doing anything. And whose loss is it? Especially when as a person who has, tried to be in the midst of a situation that existed as it pertained to isolation. All you can do is rest on the fact that you came, you delivered, and now it's over. Until maybe a later time, and then maybe not, and keep it moving. But parents who have these issues sometimes go into lifelong mode in terms of a comeback, a get back. I'm going to get you. And it plays out into the life of the child, even as they get older. And sometimes the child will have a bitter view and a bitter taste about the very ones who actually love them from the beginning. And you know what happens too? That very parent that they're with at home doesn't want to come out and say they don't want the child, but they'll make it as though the other parent doesn't want them. And that is a travesty. And then to save themselves from going to jail and being set up all the time and being bamboozled and fleeced all the time and made to look like all kinds of stuff, just because from the beginning or maybe in the middle some things happened that were not resolved. That other parent might not even be the guilty one. The guilty one might have been the one living in the house with the child. But it's made to look like the parent on the outside, mother or father, is the one who is the culprit. So they make a decision. You know what? Ixnay. But at their heart of hearts, it's not really what they want to do. Then what is the child to do? What is the child to do? What is the child to do? You know what? When I'm with my dad or I'm with my mom, I can say I'm hungry. I'm so hungry. Can we get something to eat? And we go out and we get something to eat. And we go to the park and we play and we have a good time. And it's on. I don't really want to go back home. So the child is harboring feelings too. Missing the good time or good times with you, mom or dad. And the one that they're at home with, well, I guess I just go back in my room. And my brother, my sister, they're not trying to hear me, talk to me, or anything. And I don't know what to do. So what? And then when I'm at school, I'm trying real hard still. And I'm getting older now, and I'm not exactly sure how to talk to this one or talk to that one. But I try, but then I get in trouble. Or I let too many people in, and I'm not sure who's really my friend. But then mom, dad won't let them come over to see me or talk to me on the phone. And then my grandmom is over there, and I tried a little bit with her, but well, you know what? Life is not only inside living, life is also outside living. Life is not also inside giving. life is also outside giving. It's a give and take. But when there's isolation, cut off at various levels, you know, communication wise, interaction wise, maybe there's no interaction other than to go get a haircut, get some new clothes, and perhaps occasionally go get something to eat. Is it enough? Seemingly for some parents, it's A-okay. That's the basic needs. And what? And what? And then for others, it's like, nah, I got to teach them something. I got to instill something in them. I want them to understand that they are more than conquerors, that they are capable and able to do anything that they want to do in life, that they are so special. Wow, that they bring sunshine into the house, and that I really love them and I care for them, and I want to know what they want to do when they get older. I want to know what it is that makes them smile, what it is that makes them happy. I want to know what it is that makes them cry. I want to know what it is that makes them sad. I want them to be able to come to me with any question, with anything, sharing with me what happened in school, letting me know what's going on with those little gadgets and tools that they use for the computer, the phone. What happened? Well, Ma, I dropped the phone, and blah, blah, blah. What? Get out of here. We want to talk like that. I want to be able to communicate. I want them never to be afraid to come to me and say anything. Not to be scared or afraid. I want them to be able to, even if they made a mistake, go, you know what, I know I was wrong, but I made a mistake, and that I could reach out and hug them and love them and say, it's okay. Or that I could say, you know what, listen, it can't always be this way. Not just to get up, put on clothes, go out, come back, oodles and noodles, snickerdoodles, and a can of soda. And that's the end of the day. That's the isolation way. I want them to be able to be at school and be able to talk and be able to answer in class, and talk about what they want to do, and talk about the things that happened that made them learn something new. I want them to be able to just share. Miss Cunningham, Miss Cunningham, Miss Cunningham. I want them to be able to just share. I want them to be able to play with other people and spend a good time, have a good time every day. I want them to understand that every day is not going to be a good day, that they're going to experience some clouds, some rain, and even some hate. But even when they experience the hate, to know that they are still worth it, and they're people that are not going to like everything that they do, that they say, how they look, how they dress, their way. I want them to be able to live and be able to function, have coping skills to be able to cope with everything that comes their way to the best of their ability. I want them to be able to stand up when somebody calls on them, to be able to say, well, I am this person, and today I want them to be able to learn different languages and learn how to sing and learn how to play. I want them to be able to analyze, to realize, to reflect, and to understand that, oh my God, sometimes I do make mistakes. I could have chose a better way. I want them to be able to do all these kinds of different things, but where does it start? Somebody tell me what's the way? But if mom is not speaking to me, and dad is not speaking to me, or not being allowed to come in, or mom is not being allowed to come in and be a part of my life, and brother is over here and sister's over here, and nobody's saying nothing, and nobody's making it right, but my cousins come in and we do have some time together, but we all getting older now, and I'm still alone on my own in some kind of way. From the time I was a child, and now I'm a little bit more grown. And still, I'm alone in so many ways. Anyway, the psychology behind isolation. Sometimes children will delve into other things that may not be right for them just because. It's not that they necessarily want to, but somebody somewhere could be infiltrating because the door was left wide open at home. And then what a parent will do sometimes is blame the absentee parent for the child's unacceptable ways. Amazing, right? Something to think about. But there is hope. There is hope. There is help in many ways. And the first step is to acknowledge and to come to the understanding that we're not perfect. And what it is that we have done sometimes was not the best in many ways. And to truly show the food of love, which is unconditional, universal, unwavering, feeding that kind of food through communication. And then the good food on top of that. It's all good, but the good food on top of that. Breaking bread together, trying step by step, little by little to communicate, and then eat too. Wow. That's all good. Can be all good. Baby steps. And the acknowledgement. Either way, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and the fact that you want change. If you can't acknowledge that, what would you say? Anyway, this is Elise signing out. The psychology behind isolation, or the psychology of isolation. Have a beautiful day.